News alert. President Trump rallying supporters at Mar-a-Lago last night, calling the 34 felony charges against him politically motivated.
This is a persecution, not an investigation. Spent time there today, as you possibly read, with a local failed district attorney charging a former president of the United States for the first time in history on a basis that every single pundit and legal analyst said, there is no case. There's no case. But it's far worse than that, because he knew there was no case.
He did it anyway. State Department spokesperson under the former president, Morgan Ortagus, joins us on the couch. Morgan, you were just telling us before you through the both impeachments. You saw all the controversy up close and personal. Where does this rank? The president seemed really stoic yesterday. I thought his speech was crisp but direct.
I agree. Having worked for him for those final 2 years of the administration, we went through a lot, including 2 impeachments, and had to brief, the media at the State Department the whole time. So I know what he's made of. I know what he's capable of going through. He's been through incredibly tough things. And this case, listen, you're going to have a lot of legal analysis for the next 3 hours on Fox and Friends. I'm not a lawyer, but I'll tell you what's troubling about this case is at the State Department, if we saw an example of a country overseas where the sitting president or prime minister jailed or arrested the leading opposition candidate, there would be a statement coming out of my office
like
condemning
Pakistan.
That behavior.
We
Condemned it in Russia and Burma, and in other places. So I worry about the effect of when this prosecution appears on its face so far to be very transparently political, going after the main opposition candidate to President Biden. You worry about the United States' ability to talk about the rule of law and to talk about democracy promotion overseas. And you even saw some foreign leaders, like in El Salvador yesterday, criticize us on that very point.
Sure. Donald Trump said last night there is no case there. There is a case, and it's a misdemeanor case, and apparently they've got the evidence. There's just no felony case, and that's where the legal peril is.
And what will be really interesting, you've already had some people announce that they're challenging him for the Republican nomination. You have other people considering it. It feels like a repeat of 2016 in so many different ways, that he has a monopoly on the limelight, a monopoly on the news. I'm sure this is not how he intended to do it, but I don't know, when you start to see the polls, I think you mentioned one this morning where he's almost 20 points ahead in New Hampshire. I think it's going to be hard in a Republican primary, general election, different story, but it's going to be very hard in a Republican primary to break through whenever he has this constant news churn.
Okay, so we've been talking the last few days about, he's our colleagues, it's our sister newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, Evan Gershkovich. He has been jailed in Russia for espionage charges. That's at least what the Russian government is saying. His lawyers were finally able to go meet with him. They say that he is in good health. And this is what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. We are encouraged that Evan's lawyers, retained by Dow Jones, were able to meet with him in prison today. Evan's health is good, and he is grateful for the outpouring support from around the world. How do we go about, you worked at the State Department, getting him home?
It's going to be really tough, and it's going to be very hard. We still have Paul Whelan there. I think that I think it was on Fox and Friends whenever Brittany Griner was released that I came on and did an interview with all of you, and I was very critical of that negotiation that they led to get Brittany out. Not that we don't want every American home, we do, but getting Victor out. And I said at the time, this sets a dangerous precedent for what we're willing to negotiate in order to get Americans home. So this is essentially, terrorism. Terrorist groups will do something we call kidnapping for ransom, right, where they kidnap people. Yeah. Really, Russia's acting like a terrorist state. What we need to do is action and not just words. So the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, came out and said we have grave concern, used a lot of diplomatic language. We need action. So what does that mean? First of all, I believe the Senate, I think it's 100-1, Brian, voted to make Russia a state sponsor of terrorism, and the administration, the Biden administration, has held that back. Number 2, in the Trump administration, we imposed sanctions on Iranian diplomats that when they came here to the United States, essentially we said you could go to the UN and you could go home. Why don't we do that to these Russian diplomats here in the U.S.? You get to go to the embassy, you get to go to work, and you get to go home. There are real actions and things we can do to show we're serious, but this is why the Brittany Griner negotiation was dangerous.
And it was imbalanced, obviously.
Morgan, thank you very much for dropping by.
Thank you.